Given that when you stop breathing and your heart stops, and given that 10 seconds after that the EEG, the measure of electrical brain activity, goes absolutely flat, it's medically inexplicable that near-death experiencers are having a conscious experience.
And I began to rise out of my body up into that room. Everything was going haywire down below me. They were saying, I'm going to lose him.
Next thing I knew, I was looking down the room where my body was. I could see everyone working on me. I could hear what they were saying. There were two nurses outside of the room looking in. One said to the other, "Why are they working so hard? He's gone. If they do bring him back, he'd be a vegetable." I later on told her what she said. She about passed out.
And looking down at everything that was happening, and it was frightening because I'm not accustomed to see things visually because I'd never had before. They kept saying, "We can't bring her back, we can't bring her back," and they were trying to frantically work on this thing that I discovered was my body, and I felt very detached from it.
I had never known, nor have I known since, the idea of vision. As I was floating up beyond the roof, I knew that there was snow on the ground. In fact, it struck me that I could tell there was snow without even touching it.
Pam's case unique in the fact that she had her near-death experience at a time that she was fully instrumented and under medical observation.
And I was then looking down at the body. I knew it was my body, but I didn't care. My vantage point was sort of sitting on the doctor's shoulder. I remember the instrument in his hand. It looked like the handle of my electric toothbrush. But what I saw looked a lot more like a drill than a saw. It even had little bits that were kept in this case that looked like the case that my father stored his socket wrenches in when I was a child.
At that stage in the operation, nobody can observe, hear in that state.
Maria was supposed to be dead. Maria came back to life and immediately told an amazing story. She saw everything while she left her body. She could see the medical team working on her. She then left the ICU to the roof of the hospital, and as she went up, saw a tennis shoe. No one believed her story, but her friends immediately ran up to the roof and with absolute shock found the tennis shoe exactly as described by Maria. Maria's experience could not be anything other than the absolute truth. If the out-of-body experience was purely a mental aberration, how could she have seen a physical reality that could later be verified?
So when we die, we're alert, we're conscious, we're aware of this reality, so certainly people having near-death experiences accurately describe what's happening in this reality. But the key element of the near-death experience is that we perceive, I say we, as all of us are going to have this experience, we perceive another reality superimposed over this one.
I know I've been underwater too long to be alive, yet I feel more alive than I've ever felt. And this is more real than anything I've ever experienced. As my body broke free from my boat, I felt my spirit break free from my body, and I rose up and out of the river.
Mary looked down on the river as she left her body. Then
I was absolutely overwhelmed by this sensation of being home.
I was in that light, and I came to this beautiful area. My eyes worked differently. Everything worked differently. And you know, unlike a dream that is never clear, this was so clear.
Suddenly, my inner man, the real me, my spirit, sat up out of my body, and I could feel my legs go through the springs of the bed. Wow. And my spirit came out of my body as if you would take a glove off your hand. and instantly I was in a spiritual world. Instantaneously, I knew this was the real world. And everything about the spirit world is more real than this world. Mm-hmm. The colors are brighter, the edges of everything are sharper, the emotions are just enhanced. I was standing in this river of golden radiation. It looked like a moving river of golden light. And this river went that way, it went that way, it was underneath me, it was going right through me. And this river was alive. The love and all of God's majesty, all of His authority, all of His love, everything was just flowing through me.
But as this wave of light emanated forth off Him, it moved through me, and all I got was love. The love was causing me to literally blubber. I was actually just bawling my eyes out. And I could feel an acceptance coming. I said, God, you can't love me. I've cursed you. More love. I said, I've committed all kinds of sins. I've slept around, taken drugs. More. As I looked, I knew that I was looking upon God. Such... You're just awestruck. You can't be prepared. You have no way you can be prepared to see this. I stood in absolute amazement. I'm standing there and I'm going, this is paradise. As I'm looking, I know that I belong here. It's like I knew I had been created by God to live here. I thought, why wasn't I born here in the first place? Why was I born on this earth? I knew I'd come home. I knew I'd traveled the world looking for that paradise, and here it was in front of me. I thought, I'm home.
It was a very severe meningitis, and the CT scans showed that it coated my entire brain. There wasn't any part of my neocortex that was left unscathed.
For 7 days, Dr. Alexander was in a coma. He was all but lifeless, completely unconscious. Yet he experienced a consciousness that defied all his years of medical training.
I saw things I couldn't understand, couldn't explain, and I figured someday there would be a brain-based scientific explanation. Now I know there's a much easier, simpler, more straightforward explanation. That is that our soul is eternal, and our spirit lives forever.
But I was an atheist. Now see, it's very easy to be an atheist when you're successful. You have worked your way from Oklahoma welfare to being one of the most powerful men in your part of the country, one of the most powerful men in the state of Oklahoma. A man can sit back and say, I don't need God. What is God? But it's very difficult to be an atheist when you're laying on your deathbed. Now there are people that talk about a light. There are people that talk about floating above. There are people that talk about a feeling of warmth and love. I didn't feel any of that. I felt none of that. I felt untold terror. Untold terror.
And then all of a sudden, I felt myself, my soul, leave my body, and I instantly began falling and falling. And at that moment, I knew I was no longer in control of my destiny.